How do we be good Christian leaders? As Christians, we're all called to leadership in some form by God. So how do we be good leaders? Well, let's take a look at Moses' story and what it can teach us about good leadership. When God calls Moses to lead his people out of Egypt and from slavery and into the promised land, Moses is initially taken aback and confused and says, "Who am I that I should go? Who would listen to me? Why do you want me to do it, God?" And I think it speaks volumes that Moses is like, well, I'm just a normal guy. Well, why would anyone listen? And because one of the things that's really important as a good leader is humility. At no point throughout the book of Exodus does Moses make it all about him. It's never about who Moses is and what Moses can do. It's always about God. Moses is a humble leader. And for us to be good Christian leaders, it's really important that our leadership isn't about how good we are, but about how good God is. And in God's initial response to Moses, he says two things. He says, "I will be with you," and he instructs Moses to worship him once he's brought the people out of Egypt. If we're humble in our leadership and make sure that everything we do as leaders and as people, in fact, is in worship of God and to give God glory, then that helps us to make sure that our leadership is always about God and not about ourselves. And God also promises to be with Moses as he leads. It's really important for us as leaders to recognize the presence of God, to recognize where God is moving, where God is leading, and that what we lead doesn't belong to us, it belongs to God. It's not really our leadership. It's God's leadership through us and within us and using it. You see, God is choosing to work through us, and so all that belongs to him and not us. God is the one who is growing us and shaping us as leaders and growing and shaping the people we lead too, as he leads through us. And we have a part to play in all of that, but it's ultimately all about God. We need to choose to have faith, be humble, be obedient amongst other things, but it's through God's grace, God's power, and God's leadership that we lead. And finally, it's therefore also important that we don't lead alone. We've just talked about how God is with us in our leadership, but there are also others who are with us too, notably each other, our fellow leaders, and even the leaders within the people that we lead. So, later on in Exodus, Moses asks God to send someone else to help him instead because, he's not very good at public speaking. And so God sends his brother Aaron because Aaron's a good speaker. God will send us what we need to lead. Whether that's in our own skills and our own giftings, or it's in the giftings of those around us. And so it's really important when we lead that we encourage the leadership of those around us too, because we can't do it alone. We need each other. We need to trust each other, rely on each other, and enable each other to lead too, relying on God to work in and through them in the same way that he's doing with us. And so as Christian leaders, if we humble ourselves, if we remember that our leadership is all about God's leadership through us and to those around us, and through those around us, and we trust him to be with us and work through all of us, then that's an amazing foundation to growing into being a good Christian leader.